It's like a $2 million policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's a good thing to be able to have someplace off the,
Well, and that's why that's why I want to do it, because all these guys are like, they look for places to ride, and there's no place for this particular type of size dirt bike other than going up and down the road and trespassing and, that kind of thing. So it was really popular in 2007, and then when the recession hit, a lot of those bikes were sold. People couldn't play like that. They ran out of money. And now, over the last 3 years, the smaller pit bikes, the 110 cc's, Hondas, and such, it's starting to get popular again. And so we're just, if us private people don't step up and provide a place for these guys to go ride, then they go and do something stupid on private property that, no trespassing and.
And if I can, Mrs. Williams confided in me that she does have a large cache of water on site. They have numerous fire extinguishers. They have a separate work area to work on these bikes away from the few people that have a camper there. And again, like we discussed earlier, she spoke to me that it is just a small like a 1-2 day event, and she just wants to come in compliance with our regulations. And you do have deputies on site?
I do. I've got Bill Murray and Robbie Underhill just down the road that come and hang out the whole weekend. So I don't hire any, but we have had them stop by and watch for a while and then say, well, we got bigger problems down in town, so, y'all have fun. And yeah, it's just such a small community, and the whole group kind of just travels across the nation, and you go to another race in like Texas, and you'll have 30 people there that you just seen 2 months ago at another race. So it's really respectful. Nobody's coming to cause any trouble. There's just a gathering that unfortunately makes noise because they are dirt bikes, but we try and just control the noise after 10 o'clock and, early mornings if somebody tries to start their bike, and I'm like, you gotta wait. It's too early. And don't wake my neighbors.
Madam Chair,
Which
some questions.
my neighbor is my mom, so.
go ahead.
Ms. McClung, or we go by Ms. Williams McClung?
It's Williams. I
Ms. Williams?
have to change that on the deed.
On here, you have the Friday practice and SWAT meet starting at 9 a.m. So what time, I know you have silence after 10, but what time would this being in you said maybe the February month, maybe somewhere around there, obviously it's going to get dark earlier. So what time would you anticipate shutting down, like, the bikes running and things like that for that noise, if you will?
For the bikes running and such, we try and shut it down by like 8, 9 o'clock. If they're working on their bike, there might be just a couple bikes that they would hear. And really, that's the same as it's been for the last 20 years at my house, because he's working on his bikes and you'll hear him running, but.
But the actual event itself would shut down at a certain time then, I guess?
So we can really only have multiple people on the track until maybe 5 o'clock when the sun starts to go down. It'll get in your eyes. So that's usually when everything sort of shuts down, like the major noise.
Yeah, then it's
And
just
then
like
if
a
it's-
random bike here and there that you might hear.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not gonna have that big noise whenever, even at dusk. It's not. We usually try to stop that before even dusk.
And this is a one-time event, one time a year, right?
Once a year,
Once a year.
yeah.
And then if I could ask the sheriff, when we went over the code enforcement and we talked about, gatherings of 50 or more people, I know we were trying to fix that language, but in their case, would it be required to have a couple of deputies off duty out there that they would have to pay for? Yeah.
My phone lights up.
Yeah.
And it's bad because, like I say, most families, they enjoy it as a sport, but the residents, because of the proximity to the residents, there's some noise that comes out, and we think a lot of noise because they're there. We've never had any disturbances there, we've never had any of those type things, it's just been the noise complaints. And I think last year we finished up or whatever, and didn't get a whole lot, of trying to do that, but yes, that's especially if it required, just in case somebody gets injured. I don't have anything to
Mm.
And that's, but then, I guess I got with Mr. Andrews last year, and said that they get permission from the county, but these hours, I would recommend the noise before, it's gonna get dark early, and you can't, I don't think the track's light.
No, no,
No,
no, no.
sir.
So they
That's-
can't really drive the bikes after a
N-
certain time,
no.
they're not lit up,
Mhm.
those kind of things. It's a fun family-filled event, but that's on the board of commissioners, whether you commit that or not, they have to do that. And that's where the people know now, they're coming out and going, oh, they're in violation, they're trying to do something, so.
Right.
It's gonna pull you off. I can meet with them, that, Major Conkel goes all the, hey, we expect to have 50 people, we should have at least 2 bathrooms, we get with Chief Carter and say, hey, there's gonna be X number of bikes, we need to have something just in case. It's not a great expense, but there is some expense to that, just to make sure all those requirements are met, so the next person that holds another event, you say, you got these same things. That's what we require for a lot of other people to do that, to call with the fall, and I'm going to event after event, where we meet with them and say, you need X number of this, that, the other. And a lot of those places are used to it, and y'all travel with them, I think, so you're probably used to some of those places that have to have those requirements. But if you want us to work with them first, get that approved, we'd be more than glad to meet with them and try to make an event. It's never really been a problem other than the noise.
And Madam Chair, I was gonna suggest that, you know, we don't, you know, approve or deny it this evening, but, you know, if we can just table it and then get all of that clarified, before we move forward.
First time they posted on Facebook, phones going away. That's what happened last year, they tried to get out ahead of it, Henry Gall's doing that enforcement over there, but I get what the neighbors are talking about, it does, I've been out there, and trust me, I got called, you gotta come listen. There was some after dark that, you know, that lit it up, and they went by there, they cooperated, there was no arguing, they skipped, everybody shut it down. That was respect, they didn't do
Right.
anything. And it's actually a well-run full event, so we'll work with them anyway, and we'll work with the neighbors, say it's permitted, these are gonna be the only hours. You know, like the one guy was complaining, I said, you've been on already, I mean, it's work, I mean, well, okay, but it gets dark, we'll go, and we did, and they shut it down, and it was just one person doing something like that.
It might, I mean, I think it would be very beneficial, like the sheriff said, go ahead and get all that ironed out, and that way, if you still wanna do it, then, because I think that would be better for y'all too, just to make sure that we have that permit in place, and do y'all put it in the newspaper where people know that?
No,
And,
no.
and the reason I ask.
It's only put on the social media sites of the actual racers. There's,
I see.
if you look on the sheet, there's 11 social media sites,
Oh,
and they're all just pit bike sites. And I don't post anything local. I'm not trying to draw in a $400 or 400 people spectator. It's
Okay.
really just for the guys that just want to ride their bike. And then they always bring, you know, their wife or another buddy, and a lot of times they come with their kids. And then we have the race that the little kids can race in. And, but no, it is not an event for spectators open to the
Okay.
public.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Uh-huh.
Sheriff, can you check on all that for us?
Jason Dodds, he knows more about
I was just fixing to say that would be the man to get with.
Everybody knows most about motorcycles,
Uh,
everybody in the room, so.
So there won't be no events on Sunday because that church is how far?
Half a mile.
Half a mile.
You see my truck, you know, I got no business on a motorcycle.
Neither.
Mine's gonna get everywhere with the paddle, you know what I mean? So,
But if you will, just check on that for us.
we'll work with them.
Yeah.
We'll make a joy and be respectful of the neighbors that live in the residence.
Right.
We wanna be respectful for all that, and we'll try to come up with some compromise to make it happen. I think they're gonna do that, I, personally, there's no issues there. There are the same, I can tell you, 2 or 3 neighbors gonna light that phone up, they follow their sites, as soon as it's gonna happen, I'm getting a phone call.
Just so you know, we have a new code enforcement officer, and that's exactly probably what would happen. They would call him right away. So just to keep y'all from having to worry about stuff like that, if you want to get with the sheriff and make sure that everything's ironed out and
Okay.
you're good to go, then I'm sure that we'll probably, and maybe just food for thought, maybe in your rules, you could just put that, you know, that there'll be no noise on Sunday morning or Sunday morning because of the church, you know,
Absolutely,
so,
yeah.
but,
And really by 10 o'clock Saturday night, like 90%
them are
of them
gone.
are gone.
Okay.
You know, they're heading home, because especially if they come from out of state, they have to drive home all day Sunday because they have to go to work on Monday, so, yeah, it's usually,
Good, good.
A good deal.
All
Can
right.
we just table this right now, or, I mean, what do
And
we
that's
need
what
to
we're
do?
gonna ask, is that we table it until,
That's the board's discretion.
next meeting, and, well, that way you can work with him and then come back, and if everything's a go, then we'll be glad to.
all right,
Okay.
perfect.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
And Madam Chairman, that's all I have for the Board of Adjustment meeting, so we can get out of this and start the planning and zoning.
I do have one other public comment.
Oh.
Mr. Steele
Oh, Mr., oh,
has
sorry.
to speak at the Board of Adjustment, so.
Paul Still, 14167 101st Avenue. I wanted to once again ask that you hear the appeal that I filed relative to the Comores special permit for mining. And what I'd like to suggest tonight is that you simply send that appeal and that the information around it to the North Florida Regional Planning Council to determine what the procedure should be for appeals. And this is real important because your comprehensive planning process is not going to work if you do not have the ability to appeal a board action. And at this point, it's not clear what that appeal action or how that process should work based on Mr. Sexton's letter that essentially denied the board hearing my appeal. So I just asked you to get the information, get an opinion from North Florida Regional Planning Council. If I get that information and they say, no, I don't have the right for appeal, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right, thank you. All right. So we'll adjourn that meeting and go straight into,
Yes, ma'am. We will go ahead and jump into the Bradford County Planning and Zoning meeting for Thursday, July 20th, 2023. It is, what, around 6:20?
know what,
6:23 in the afternoon. All right, I'd like the board to consider old business. We need to consider approval or correction to the minutes from the following previous meeting, which is the Planning and Zoning Board meeting held on, excuse me, Thursday, June 15th, 2023.
okay.
I need to ask for public comments, a motion, and a vote, please.
All right, do we have any public comments? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting?
Go ahead.
For June 15th?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the minutes
A
from
second?
June 15th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, so we'll vote. Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daugherty?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Spooner?
Aye.
And Andrews, aye. Passes 5-0. All right, new business?
Thank you, ma'am. All right, next we will move on to new business. This is CP 23-02. Real briefly, this is a comp plan amendment which will allow solar facilities in agricultural zoned areas inside of Bradford County, but will not allow them inside of an electrical power station generating designated land, if that makes sense. So basically, if there's already established as a power generating land use, they will not allow a solar farm inside that particular zoning area. This will allow solar farms in agricultural zoned areas throughout Bradford County. And I'll go ahead and read it by title. This is a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Bradford County, Florida, serving as the Planning and Zoning Board of Bradford County, Florida, and the local planning agency of Bradford County, Florida, recommending to the Board of County Commissioners of Bradford County, Florida, approval of an amendment to the text of the Bradford County Comprehensive Plan pursuant to an application CPA 23-02 by the Board of County Commissioners under the amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3248 Florida statutes as amended, provided for amending policy I.2.2 of the future land use element to add solar facilities as a permitted use within the agricultural land use classifications and by excluding solar activities from the electrical power generating facility land use classifications in the rural areas of the county, providing severability, repealing all resolutions in conflict, and providing for an effective date. We need to ask for public comments, a motion, and a vote. Oh, I'm sorry, this is, we can ask for, no, that's right, no, we need a public comments, a motion, and a vote. I'm ahead of myself, sorry, y'all.
Okay. So do we have any public comments? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve CPA 2302 resolution?
I did have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Andrews, so if, does that mean that the solar power stations could not be implemented in areas where, that are considered the electrical zone for, let's say, Florida Power and Light or Clay, or, so if, I want to just be,
As it relates to rural areas,
uh-huh.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure really what you're asking. There are certain areas in the comp plan there that are already designated, and I'd have to go back and look at them as far as the electrical power generating land use. Because again, that's basically that,
Would that put them in competition with the electrical?
well, it would not allow them to put an area that's already been set aside for an electrical power substation.
Mhm.
They would not be allowed to put a solar farm on that particular piece of land.
Okay,
Or that, okay, does that make sense? Sorry, I should have been better,
all right,
clearer on that.
okay. I'm
Yes, ma'am.
good.
Okay, let's go ahead and get a motion so that we can get it on the table.
I make a motion to approve CPA 23-02 resolution as read.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, and is there any further discussion? Okay, so we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Spooner?
Aye.
And Andrews, aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The next item is a resolution. This is an individual would like to change the land use from residential to industrial. He would like to establish some type of outdoor storage for boats, motorhomes, various things of that nature. And I'll read it by title. This is S 230613A, a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Bradford County, Florida, serving as the Planning and Zoning Board of Bradford County, Florida, and the local planning agency of Bradford County, Florida, relating to an amendment of 50 or less acres of land to the future land use plan map of the Bradford County Comprehensive Plan pursuant to an application by the property owner of said acreage, under the amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3248 Florida statutes, as amended, providing for changing the land use classification from residential low density to industrial of certain lands within the unincorporated area of Bradford County, Florida, repealing resolutions in conflict, providing for an effective date. We need to ask for public comments. I think you have some, and after which we'll ask for a motion and a vote.
I don't on this one.
I believe you probably have two.
I have two, but it's for Z 2303. That's the next one.
Well, I believe it should have been for this particular.
Okay? Barbara
Ms. Acevedo?
Johns? Come on up. Okay, then Bobby Avino? Vito?
Bobby Acevedo, 16269 Northeast 24th Avenue, Stark. I have property that borders this property. My concern is that it is not kept now very well. It does not, industrial does not fit our neighborhood. There are people currently living on the property. Will they continue to live on the property? There is a wetland, designated wetland area in the northeast corner of the property. Are we going to consult Soil and Water about this piece of property and create a retention pond or a detention pond based on their recommendations? Lighting, is this going to be a lighted facility? Am I going to have my yard lit up every hour of the nighttime? Then if not, what is going to be done for security for this property? The borders that are required, I believe, are 25 feet. Is that going to be the scrub and the poison ivy and the brush that's already existing? Or are they going to plant something there to increase my privacy from their business? And then, are we going to be able to see the site plan before anything else moves forward? I encourage you not to change this zoning from the residential rural into industrial. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Barbara Jones.
Barbara Johns.
I'm sorry,
It's all
Johns.
right, everybody does that. 16159 Northeast 24th Avenue, Stark, Florida. If you look at the map that was presented, I actually have 2 parcels of land that border this piece of property that they want to rezone. And I have a lot of the same questions that Ms. Acevedo had. Is it going to be lighted? Do I have to worry about putting up a privacy fence? What is going to be put in there? So I'm backing up what Ms. Acevedo said and also oppose changing it to industrial.
Thank you.
I guess I wanted to ask, your question, when you say it's not kept, are you saying it's like an eyesore or overgrown or?
Yes, ma'am. Over the years, there has been RVs and mobile homes that have become so dilapidated. Within the scrub and the brush, you can't even see all the metal and things like that. There were places on the property where there were pits dug, whether that was for that old RV septic or what, which was prior to my owning my piece of property. But I've watched over the 20-plus years I've lived there, that thing rot down, and so you can't even tell that it's been brushed at this point. So it would require a lot of cleanup. And again, the industrial portion of it does not fit the neighborhood.
Well, I think, we have no idea what would go there, right?
The individual just indicated to me that he would like to have some type of outdoor storage, and Ms. Acevedo is correct. There has to be a 25-foot buffer all the way around this property. Now, as far as lighting, I'm not so sure about, but it's up to the board decides. We could table this and have the gentleman come in and give us a scope of work that he can present to us and what's he.
Excuse me. So he's gonna do like storage, mini storage?
No, sir, not mini storage, just
Gonna be
outdoor storage.
Outdoor storage.
Yes, sir, because that,
Campers, boats, and all
That-
that.
That's correct, because that is what's permitted, or that type of storage is only allowed underneath the ILW, Industrial Light and Warehousing regulations, yes, sir.
So Madam Chair, I would propose that he have the gentleman to come in and share what he's planning to do, because you don't want to create an eyesore if that's what's going on now, and just be clear about what.
Well, and what I was gonna say is, just to try to calm your fears a little, there are regulations that must be done, and I would almost think it might be a positive thing as far as if he's going to put a business there, that he will clean it up. There will probably have to be a retention pond, like you said. So this might, instead of being bad news, it might be good news, but we can definitely, you guys have anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, there's 2 things that we need to have clarified, and that would be a reason to vote it down, and until we get that clarification, and drainage is one and light's the other.
Yep.
Okay.
And so, until we know that, because if the light does impact, depending on what type of lighting it is, if it's downward lighting and it's lighting, the property, for security purposes, and it's not something that's, coming back on to the adjacent property owners, then I think that would suffice. But again, those would be 2 reasons, and without knowing those answers, then I think that it would be, beneficial to have him come in.
Okay.
I have his number, I'll reach out to him tomorrow. So
Okay.
I need a motion from the board to,
Table it until our next meeting.
But-
I'm sorry.
Yes, Barbara, can I add one more thing? Over the last couple of years, the
we'll have him come in.
So,
So,
Chair,
Madam Chairman, you'll just need a motion to move to defer until the next meeting.
Madam Chair, I would move to defer this issue until the next, meeting.
Do we have second? Any further discussion? All right, so we'll vote. Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Spooner?
Aye.
And Andrews, aye.
Mr. Commando, so then we can just take off the next item on the agenda. That was Z 2303, which was the zoning change for this proposed land use change. So we'll just defer that to the next, we need a motion to defer that. Should I go ahead and read it?
You don't have to, just have a motion.
Next item on your agenda was these, the companion document to the land use is the zoning change. Since we deferred it to the next meeting, we will just make a motion to defer this until the next meeting.
Okay, do we have
Madam
motion? Go ahead.
I would offer motion to defer the Z 23-03 until the next meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, we'll take a vote. Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Spooner?
Aye.
And Andrews, aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Give me just a moment.
Okay.
All right, the next item on our planning and zoning agenda is a resolution, family down around the Keystone Heights area near the Rails to Trails have roughly 1.6, 1.7 acres. They would like the board to consider a land use change from residential to commercial. I will read this by title. This is S 230616B, a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Bradford County, Florida, serving as the Planning and Zoning Board of Bradford County, Florida, and the local planning agency of Bradford County, Florida, relating to an amendment of 50 or less acres of land to the future land use plan map of the Bradford County Comprehensive Plan pursuant to an application by the property owners of said acreage and the amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3248 Florida statutes as amended, providing for changing the land use classification from residential low density to commercial of certain lands within the unincorporated area of Bradford County, Florida, repealing resolutions in conflict, and providing for an effective date. We need public comments, a motion, and a vote.
Okay, do we have any public comments? Okay, all right, do we have a motion to approve S 230616B resolution?
Yes, I make a motion to approve, the resolution as read, S 230616B.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, we'll take,
613B, just for clarification, 613B.
Do we have a question?
No, I was just clarifying that the ending numbers were 613B.
Yes, ma'am. We had 616A, we had 16A, and this is 16B.
oh,
This is just two land use applications that come on the same date, so we have to keep them, A, B, C, D. Yes, ma'am.
all right, so we'll take a vote. Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Spooner?
Aye.
And Andrews, aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's all I have for the planning and zoning meeting.
All right. Meeting is adjourned. What time is it?
6:39.
6:39?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, my.
Y'all are welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
feel free to talk.
Call the Board of County Commissioners meeting in order. And we've prayed twice, so maybe God will continue to bless us through these meetings. So with that being said, we'll go ahead. Mr. Andrews. Thought he had a little extra time. Sorry we're running late. We've had quite a few meetings already.
Good afternoon again, Ms. Chairman. I'm here to read the ordinance from the resolution that Planning and Zoning Board passed previously. This is allowing solar farms in agricultural use and not allowing them in the electrical power generating facilities in rural areas. I'll read it by title. This is an ordinance of Bradford County, Florida, amending the Bradford County Comprehensive Plan relating to an amendment to the text of the Bradford County Comprehensive Plan pursuant to an application CPA 23-02 by the Board of County Commissioners under the amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 Florida statutes as amended for amending policy I.2.2 of the future land use element to add solar facilities as a use permitted within the agricultural land use classifications and by excluding solar facilities from the electrical power generating facility land use classifications in the rural areas of the county, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for an effective date. This is a first reading only, so we just need to ask for public comments. No motion, no vote. This is a first reading only, so we need to ask just only for public comments.
Okay. Do we have any public comments? Okay, hearing none.
All right, thank you, ma'am. We are deferring item B and C to the next meeting, so I'll go on and move to item D. Again, this is the companion to the resolution we passed earlier in the Planning and Zoning meeting from from residential to commercial, and I'll read it by title. This is an ordinance of Bradford County, Florida, amending the future land use plan map of the Bradford County Comprehensive Plan as amended, relating to an amendment of 50 or less acres of land pursuant to an application S 230613B by the property owners of said acreage under the amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3248 Florida statutes as amended, providing for changing the land use classification from residential low density to commercial of certain lands within the unincorporated area of Bradford County, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances of conflict, providing for an effective date. Now, we do have to ask for public comments and a motion and a vote on this particular item.
Okay. Do we have any public comments? All right. Hearing none, do we have a motion to pass this ordinance as read?
I make a motion to approve the ordinance as read.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And any discussion? Okay, so we'll take a vote. Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Booner?
Aye.
and Andrews, aye.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Board.
And forgive me, we are going to amend the agenda tonight. We have one emergency item that will be covered in our county manager's section. Okay? So now, public comments. We have one, and that's Mr. Steele.
Paul Steele, 14167 Southwest 101st Avenue. What I wanted to mention tonight was the Cypress Road boat ramp grant. You approved the signing of an agreement, but that agreement had an error in it. It referred to Franklin County rather than Bradford County. I'm not sure what's going to be needed to correct that. But more importantly, I would urge you to take another look at the plans for the Cypress boat ramp. I don't think the plans that were developed by DRMP, I don't think you'll be able to get a permit for. And the way that boat ramp is structured, according to the staff person I spoke to with the Fish and Wildlife, if you can't get a permit, that ends. You're done. You can't. They will pay the amount that you've spent up to the limit, but you can't advance. And so I'd urge you to really take a hard look at that permit, possibly even go to get a second opinion to make sure it's permittable. The reason I don't think you can get a permit for it, there is already an existing canal for the boat ramp, and what the plans call for is digging another canal. And the what's called the 404 program, to get that permit, you have to be able to demonstrate there's no alternative to digging that canal out into Lake Sampson. And clearly here you have an alternative. You can use the old canal. And the designs are terribly over-planned. They have a very fancy boat ramp that I don't think will work on Lake Sampson because of the fluctuation during floods. I think a flood will destroy that. Also, the ramp is made out of aluminum. The chances of that boat ramp, given the price of aluminum scrap metal, surviving very long, I think are very small. I think you need a much simpler ramp there, and it would be very easy to redesign that ramp so that it would be permittable. You'd use the old canal, and you wouldn't put in a paved parking. That would say you don't have to have then retention pond. And there's a real danger there because the entrance to the proposed plans have you turning right after the one-lane bridge around a blind curve. And that's, I mean, if you're pulling a big boat ramp and trying to turn and there's a log truck coming you can't see, it's not a good set of plans. And so I'd urge you to go in and have another look at those plans and possibly have an engineering firm come up with some plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, now we have the consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, but pulling item F.
Okay. All right.
Meaning, Madam Chair, pulling that from the consent agenda for discussion.
Yes.
I'd like to pull it for a separate vote, separate from the consent agenda.
Okay. And I do have a question on E with the budget for the mosquito control. Have we already gone over that?
Madam Chair, you can pull that item as well if you'd like to discuss it.
I think we need to pull it and just take a look at it before we approve it.
Okay.
That's something.
Mhm.
Does Rayonier still help Bradford County, or they don't, with the chemicals? Or they don't no more? I know they used to.
What,
Yeah.
Um,
Do you know,
Director
They don't
Dodds,
help.
could you come up and,
because they're getting terrible, I mean, I've been getting calls after calls. And I mean, Rayonier used to put the tablets in, but have they quit doing that altogether?
I don't know. I can follow up with Miss Hall tomorrow
Yeah,
morning and
call 'em.
ask her.
I mean, or I'll call her, I mean, to find out. They used to help Bradford County quite a bit with those tablets.
Right.
You know, and it's hatching season right now and it's wet, so.
Yes, sir. No, I don't mind following up with Mrs. Hall tomorrow morning and finding out if they're still continuing to do that.
I know they used to help us quite a bit with that, so.
yes, sir, we'll follow up tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Call me tomorrow when you talk to her, and that way I can call her back.
Yes, sir. I certainly will.
All right,
Any other questions?
that's it.
Can I just remind the board that there's a motion on the table presented by Commissioner Doherty to approve pulling item F for discussion? Can we finish that motion?
Okay.
Actually, you're gonna need a friendly amendment to also pull item E.
Okay, and,
So I'll amend the motion then to pull items E and F.
okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. So I just need to get approval for A through D and G, or do we have to,
H, I, and K.
pardon me?
There's also some on the next page.
Yeah, okay, so, all right. Can I get a motion to approve A through D and G through K?
That's the motion on the table.
Oh, sorry. So, any further discussion? All right, so we'll take a vote. Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Spooner?
No, nay.
Okay, and Andrew's aye, so it passes 4-1. All right, now can I get a motion to approve A through D and G through K?
That's what we just.
That's what we
I'm
just
sorry,
did.
I
That's
thought it
what
was
we
for
did,
the,
yeah.
okay,
No, you're good.
all right,
You're good.
Now we just need to discuss item E.
okay. Well, the discussion is, we haven't, this hasn't come before the board, we haven't talked about it. So I just would like
Jason,
for
you
us
wanna come up?
to go over it and,
So if I say anything wrong, I'm gonna rely on Dana on this, but it's my
Okay.
understanding that the reason the budget was already done is because of, we're state funded for half of that money. So
okay.
their budget starts July 1. So we have to amend that budget first before we can have, to make sure we get the money to have it for the county side.
Okay, I did not know that. All right. So now that we know that, can we go back and vote that back? Can we approve that?
Now, once you've had the discussion, then you take a vote on item E.
Okay. All right, so, can I get a motion to approve item
I'll make
E?
a motion to approve item E.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Spooner?
Aye.
And Andrew's aye. Now we'll have discussion on F.
Madam Chair, this board, the school board, we've met in several workshops and had many discussions open to the public. And this board and the school board have approved this. And we just need to just move on. And there's no reason for it not to be on the consent agenda.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All right. So now we can vote on it?
Need a motion to approve?
Okay, do I have a motion to approve
For motion to approve
Item 4F.
4F?
or
All right. Second? Did you say second, Mr. Riddick?
Second.
Okay. So, no further discussion? We'll vote. Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Nay.
Mr. Thompson?
Nay.
Ms. Spooner?
Aye.
And Andrew's aye. So passes 3-2. Okay. All right. seal, Southeast 11th Avenue, Public Works. One-man show. I started to say you should just sit in the front.
So this was a commissioner's request a couple years ago about paving a section of that. And as all of you are aware, we're struggling with asphalt. And we were only going to be able to pave a portion of it. And it was requested that we look at the chip seal for this particular road because the cost of asphalt would have been way outside of the scope of the project. And so the option was to go to the chip seal and be able to do the whole road for about half the cost of what we were going to do half the road. And so that's why it's before y'all tonight to decide on using gas tax.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve Southeast 11th for chip seal.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, just for discussion. I applaud Mr. Riddick and advocating for his district to get the road paved. This will be 2 miles of paving, or 2 miles for that. When I brought before the board to get the 4 areas in my area done, there was some opposition to doing it. I wish to get the same thing done in my district for those 4 roads, which are just a quarter of a mile, which would just be a 2 mile, using the same,
So you're requesting the chip seal over the paving?
not over the pavement, but the remaining roads that need it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll get with the county manager.
What kind of life expectancy does that stuff have, that chip seal?
The 2 current roads that are in the county now have been done for 7 years.
Is it busted up any?
Maybe 5.
Some of them are.
Is that the two?
It was done before I got here,
Yeah,
so
the 2 by.
I'm guessing
They're
6.
still holding up good.
Yes, sir. And you also have the option of, every 5 years coming back and reapplying emulsion to it and, sweeten up that product.
Yeah. And Madam Chair, if I could just remind the board that this is chip seal. This wasn't asked to be paved. It was asked to apply a different product, a much less expensive product that will suffice for that road. And so I don't want the board to think that any opposition towards any other district we're talking apples and oranges as far as the product and the cost of the product.
Absolutely.
And if I may just say one thing, because I hate to jump in front of anybody, because I know that Commissioner Andrews and Commissioner Thompson have 2 roads that the engineering has already been done on them, and I talked to Mr. Dodds about that quite a bit, but we can't get the asphalt for them at this time, so that's why. And also, we saved the money on engineering because we didn't have to do any engineering for a chip seal road. So that's why, and actually before this meeting, I talked to Mr. Dodds and asked him, well, why don't we just do chip seal, especially on the sporting sportsman's
Oh,
club?
that's what we were gonna do.
Yeah,
right?
because it's a straight shot, but at the same time, we've already spent quite a bit of money to get engineering done, and the pavement is better, but
But we're not paving that road.
You're talking about Southwest 106th?
It's Sportsman.
Yes, ma'am. It's been engineered and permit for
I
asphalt.
thought that you said we couldn't because of the bridge.
We can't get FDOT funding because of the bridge, but we're using gas tax to pave it.
Okay.
That is one road that we spend about 3 days, 2 to 3 days a week out there out of our 4 to 5 day work week.
and if we hadn't already spent the money for engineering, then
Then
it would probably been a good road to chip seal, but.
And that's also to a destination that brings in tax dollars into Bradford County.
Yes,
exact- yeah.
absolutely.
So it's a very good project, but.
Anything else?
Any other questions for me?
No. And it's, Mr. Dodds, it's about, what, $1 million for a mile to pave with asphalt?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of it.
Is it cost approximately about $1 million for a mile of paving with asphalt?
With a contractor, you're somewhere close to that. In-house, it's not that high.
Okay.
But, I mean, just to give you a perspective, this particular project, just asphalt without trucking, without any labor, without any preparation, the asphalt would have been double what the chip seal is.
And again, I applaud you for advocating for your area and what you've done in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with all that discussion, I forget where we are.
We had a motion.
We had a motion and a second?
But no vote.
Okay, so we'll go to a vote. Mr. Reddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Spooner? Aye. And Ms. Andrews, by vote. All right. Ms. Spooner?
Am I next?
Madam Chair, we have a Meridian item.
Oh, I'm
Item
sorry.
6.
Yes, I'm sorry about that, sir. Not that I'm trying to hurry things up or anything.
I get it. How are you, Commissioners? It's good to see you. My name is Don Savoy. I am the President and CEO of Meridian Behavioral Healthcare, and I'm here to give you an annual report for the community.
Good.
I'm going to just kind of hit on the highlights, but if y'all would, if you have a question, stop me as I kind of go through it. Just to give you an idea, Meridian's been serving the community of Bradford County and the region we're going on our 51st year. So we're kind of proud of the services we continued, but also grown within the county. To give you an idea, Meridian has about 650 employees. We serve a full continuum as a behavioral health provider, but we also offer primary care. I'd be remiss in not telling you that Bradford County is very well represented on our board of directors by retired Sheriff Bob Milner. He's also on our executive board, and he keeps me in line. So if you run into Bob, let him know. I'm just going to jump ahead. I talked about our continuum of services. I look at data that's sort of unique to counties, and one of the things I thought was really interesting was this past year we provided to 846 Bradford County residents over 4,000 telehealth services. I'm excited by that because we offer free tablets when people have challenges with transportation and other things. So knowing that we can knock down the barrier of transportation to get people served really makes a difference. And we're going to continue to do that as long as we can. The funding from federal grant hasn't run out, so we're offering tablets with cellular so that folks can, get into services. Far too often I run into folks that, they come in for a visit in the office, and although it's right here in town, they've had to have a family member or neighbor bring them in. So telehealth really has made a difference, I believe, in what we're seeing in Bradford County. When we look at sort of the volume of services, I've seen an uptick from the age groups of 6 to 11 and 12 to 17. 14% of the Bradford County residents and 20% respectively are between the ages of 6 and 17. We see that as having a lot to do with post-pandemic and some of what the kids are seeing. Anxiety and depression that otherwise wasn't addressed, and acting out and other things. I'll also mention here that we have a really good relationship with the Bradford County Schools. Val Gordon has run our shop here in Bradford County for a lot of years, and we've done, I think, a really good job working with the county schools, and they've worked with us pretty closely too. So, especially with kids, you want to catch them before they fall too far. And if we can engage and de-escalate and work with the families, it really does make a difference. So that's really the only thing on that slide. When we look at we spend a lot of time looking at outcomes. And when we look at outcomes, you can see that from other chronic illnesses, the positive outcomes range from 40 to 60%. Last survey we did, adults felt that 75% of the symptoms were improved and 74% of the kids. It's sort of we track the data to make sure that we're providing effective but efficient care, and we're also modernizing the way we function, especially with family and children's services. So that's a big number for us. The next slide's an important slide. I did not put mobile response teams on here, but in the county, we have the ability to respond within 60 minutes, 24/7, 365 for someone in crisis. We work with law enforcement, EMS, and others. And what we're trying to do is de-escalate in the community, because if someone has to be put on a Baker Act or a Marchman Act, which is the addiction side of that, there's a lot of trauma bringing someone into our crisis stabilization unit. There's a lot to that. And if we can manage folks in the community, we do every effort we can to do that. So that's a big deal. Acute care, the adults were down a little bit, but the kids were up. We served 47 kids last year. Those numbers are through April. I just kind of updated them through June. It's a 20% increase year over year with kids that have been placed under Baker Act and in our acute care facility. Outpatient counseling is at about 650. It's down a little for adults from last year, but it's up for kids with 425 kids receiving outpatient counseling services from Bradford County. And the only other thing I'll mention here is psychiatric care. To give you an idea, there's less than 9,000 children's psychiatric providers in the country, and we have 3. And we're able to serve, and that's why you'll see a large number of children at 138 and adults at 376 receiving psychiatric care from doctors, from addictions professionals.
Just a moment, may I ask, so
Please.
is this for Bradford or Levy? Is just those numbers?
My goodness, how did you get that? I got it as Bradford. That's just a typo. for
Okay,
the,
I'm good, I'm
title.
good. I was trying to,
Thank you, though, because I
Okay.
wouldn't have seen that.
okay,
No,
All
that's a title.
okay,
typo.
I'm good then.
We actually have 14 counties that we present to and kind of go through this, but thank you for that. There was one other note I wanted to make here. We're seeing an uptick in addictions, and we've served over 120 residents of Bradford County in our MAT services. While we don't offer those services directly here in the county, they are available from Alachua, Lake City, Columbia County, and also from Putnam County. So we try and do that regionally as best we can. We may need to stand something up in Bradford County if we see the numbers go up, but we'll take that on a year-by-year basis and sort of look at the numbers on where they go there. Any question on the numbers?
What
It's a significant amount of folks.
Yes, and then your comment about the addictions increase, is it a particular age group?
It's really not. Well, everybody thinks, at least from my perspective, folks think of younger folks dealing with addictions. You'd be surprised how many folks within the 35 to 55-year-old range we're seeing with addictions issues. And we are seeing an uptick in addictions between 45 and 55-year-old folks. It's significant. Couple of things I didn't put on the slides, but I just wanted to mention to you all as we go through this. We are seeing an uptick statewide and really nationally with death by suicide across all of the age groups, but we are seeing an increase in teenagers. So you're going to see in the next couple of months, Meridian is standing up a new program called Text for Help. The days of call and come in for appointments and, schedule an appointment and wait 3 weeks, that doesn't fly anymore, and it really doesn't make the difference the way it needs to. So we've done 2 things. Folks can walk into any of our offices, our outpatient offices, including Bradford County, between 8 and 5, Monday and Friday, and we're going to get them seen. This wait for an appointment, we're scheduled out, isn't good for several reasons. If you're feeling better a week later, you're not going to keep that appointment. So we were seeing a 50% no-show rate for first appointments. And the other thing is, a lot of our adolescents are used to texting. They want immediate response. So Text for Help, when you see that start to come into the community in the next couple of months, it's going to be 24/7, 365, guaranteed response to a text within 3 minutes by a licensed counselor and then followed up on by our staff, either MRT, outpatient, or others. They're all just innovations to really try and get to folks before they fall too far, save a life. If Text for Help saves 1 life, it was worth it. So that's kind of the approach that we're taking on this. And we think it's going to make a real difference in the community, in all the communities we serve. And the other thing that's not on the list that I want to mention, you probably heard about this on the news, Central Receiving Facility in Gainesville. So right now there's 4 Baker Act receiving facilities in Gainesville where most of law enforcement would take someone to be evaluated. We've gone on and applied to be a central receiving facility. The Alachua County Commission, Gainesville City, and GPD and Alachua Sheriffs have all gotten together to fund the facility. We're going to add 6,000 square feet to our facility, and we're going to coordinate all the Baker Acts through that central receiving facility. So no longer will law enforcement bring them to 4 facilities. They'll come to central receiving, we'll drop off an average within 8 minutes and get law enforcement back into the county, back onto their beat where they're working. Because we know that if they have to spend a bunch of time at a receiving facility out of the county, they're not within the county to serve the needs, the safety needs of the community. So that's part of it. And the other thing is with 4 receiving facilities, someone could be, when they're brought in, you could be brought into UF Health Vista one day and Meridian the next. HIPAA doesn't allow us to communicate. So it's kind of like Groundhog Day. There's no way to engage and coordinate treatment quickly. And this is going to allow us with the high need, high utilizers to coordinate and transport to all those facilities. So really use it in a far more efficient manner for the folks coming in as well as the community. Once we get this stood up in the next 12 months, we are going to be talking to the counties that it serves to participate within some of the funding and support. What we did do ahead, though, was this last legislative session, we got approved to be part of the central receiving system within Florida, and Meridian will receive $2.1 million a year to operate it. When the funding to stand it up was put out by Alachua County, the city, and GPD, we didn't have any operating funds. They were going to use APA funds for 1 year to get us off the ground, but sort of the foresight of everybody to make that happen now means that we're going to have this permanent funding for a coordinated receiving facility. Questions on that? Okay. I know it's a lot. It's really just providing additional care, needed care to the communities that we serve, 14 counties. Just to give you an idea, the majority of those we see from Bradford County, 86% are at or below the federal poverty guidelines. Only 2% of those we saw were ineligible for some type of subsidy. And we cover up to 300% of poverty for subsidy. 25% of the services provided this year through April 30th have been paid for with indigent care funds. 59% have been covered by Medicaid. 20% have some form of insurance. But here's the important point. Only 9% of that 20% is covered by insurance, meaning a lot of the services like case management, care coordination, they just don't pay for it. So we don't have a funding source for that 11% of the insurance. We never turn someone away for inability to pay. I want everybody to know that. There is, whether you can afford it or not, we will not turn someone away. We will provide treatment, we will provide care, we will figure it out. And we have done that for 51 years. So with that said, our state, the money that y'all provide, are y'all aware of the Baker Act match and the state dollars and the funding that the county provides and where that goes to? I can give you a real quick answer on that if you like. The funding that you provide year over year for Meridian is part of our Baker Act funding. It's not for outpatient services, it's not for other things, but it's for the bed days, the crisis stabilization, and all of the acute care services we provide. And you've seen an uptick. What the state does is they fund 75% of that, and they stop. So the other 25% is actuarially based on our cost we have to get from local sources, and that's typically the county commission. So the money that you all, we hope will provide to Meridian, and you have in the past, goes to fill that gap of that 25% that the state does not pay for indigent care, inpatient, and Baker Act. I know that a lot of information. So we're asking for a 10.85% increase over last year to $92,022. It seems like a high percentage, but a little context, back in 2019, 2020, Bradford County supported Meridian with $110,000 and a little bit over than that. The prior year in 2020, it went to $89,000 and change, and then for the last few years, it's been $83,000. So it's reduced, and when I've come to these meetings, I do understand. I know we're all under fiscal and financial constraints. If you all can and you see it appropriate, we'd love for you to consider that increase to $92,000 for 2024. I'll be glad to answer any questions y'all have. Appreciate your time.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Is there any additional funding coming in from the opioid lawsuit, that all the counties were, I guess, involved with as far as, signing up for the, I guess, big pharma or, whomever was paying for that? So is there any of that funding coming from there?
So as a private nonprofit, yes, is the short answer. The money split, as I understand it, at the state level in 2 places. Some of it goes to DCF and then kind of gets distributed
Okay.
over that way.
Okay.
And then there's money that will be coming directly to you all as a county entity, and some of that money can go towards addiction services.
Okay.
So we would gladly, thank you for the question, we'd gladly work with y'all on some of the addiction service dollars and how that can subsidize what's called SOAR funding from a federal level and some of those pieces. But my understanding is that 85% or 90%, please don't, of those federal funds from the opioid have to be spent on addictions services.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
On the last page is my name and contact information, and there's nothing I enjoy more than helping someone that's in need. So if any of you here have someone that needs to be reached out to, you call me. We'll do our best to help. It's what Meridian is about. We're here to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Now, let's see.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair and the board. I wanted to bring back before the board the issue of strategic planning and how its importance to our board and to our county. It's important to our planning, to economic development and growth, and to the overall well-being of our community. So it's important for us to get input from our county, our stakeholders, from our community. Because our residents and the people we serve also impact our economic development and our growth and our well-being of our county. So it's very, very important to us. And so it's important, too, that we have our SWOT. When you think about the SWOT, it assesses the strength of the things that we do well in our county. We have to assess our weaknesses, those things that we need to improve upon. And then also looking at the opportunities that the county has for economic growth and development. The opportunities to do some other things. And also we look at the threat. What are the things that threaten or impede our ability to be viable, to be a thriving, productive community? And then strategic planning is important. It's being done, practiced by our neighbors, people around us, Clay County, Alachua County, Duval, Monroe, Leon. It's done by all of the cities throughout the state of Florida and throughout the country, state government and then our federal government. So it's very, very important. At all of the workshops that we have attended, all of the training, it's stressed upon us that strategic planning is the key to guiding one's community. So it's very important. And so on the next slide, you'll see our neighboring county, Clay County, has engaged in strategic planning. Betsy Conant, for example, they held their strategic planning process. They did their SWOTs, they engaged their community, they got feedback from the community. And so the people around us are doing, and it is something that our community very much needs to do. So what I did, I took, this is my book. That book, looking at strategic plans from Monroe, from Leon County, the Envision Plan that was done in 2013. I looked at the Bradford County Development Authority. I looked at all of those various plans that others have done, and particularly looking at the Envision Plan that was done back in 2013. Looking at our chamber and others that have actually done strategic planning. So it's important to analyze the old information that we had, but it's important for us to do SWOTs and engage our local partners, like in our Loudy and Hampton and Brooker, those areas, to conduct workshops, to do some small SWOTs and community meetings, to have some type of public forum. So I'm willing to take on that responsibility, part of that, to document the information that we obtained from those areas, so that our county can move forward with developing some long-term, short-term goals, and so that we can have some directions for our county and be able to look at what our mission, vision, and values are for the community. So I'm willing to take lead on that process. And I've had training in doing strategic planning. When I was with the city, Mark would sometimes come to some of our retreats. I've done it at the state hospital. Served 10 years with the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council. So every entity does it. So we need to do it. But I know that it's a lot of work, but I'm willing to do the work so that it can help our county bring that information back to our board, so that we can further develop our strategic plan based on the input that we get from others from that. And so I guess I'm asking for your blessing to be able to proceed with that so that we can get on with having some solid plans for our community. It's something we need to do.
Madam Chair, I know Ms. Spinner's been very passionate about this, and so you have my vote to be our champion to do that and come back and let's put something together.
I agree.
You got my blessing too.
Well, thank you.
You know, I mean, we all know we need it. And it is gonna be a lot of work.
But this county is worth the work.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that we can have
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So next, Mr. Thompson.
Don't have much tonight. We finally got our glimpse at the fire rescue budget today. We don't have the official yet. I don't believe we haven't received one of finance. No, not yet. But we've been waiting on that to try to put together something for you guys to look at, come over and talk to us, show you what's going on with it. And besides that, Dana's here with her quarterly report on the third quarter state of the commission.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. If it's okay, I would like to present the revenue and expenditures through the first 3 quarters before you set the proposed millage rate, if that's okay. You'll take a look at the quarterly update sheets I just passed out. We will be reviewing the general fund, the fire rescue fund, and the road department fund. Before we get started, I would like to reiterate what I said at the last quarterly update regarding the decisions that were made last year during budget time. We used each department's fund balance to help balance the fiscal year 23 budget. This helped to zero out the individual fund balances in each department, and it also helped to reduce the transfer amount required from the general fund. We transferred everything from the 1-cent sales tax and the fiscally constrained funds to the general fund. Remember, once that a fund balance has been used, it is no longer available. Remaining funds in the fund balance should be those designated as reserved for contingency, and those require board approval before spending. So with that being said, let's look at the general fund. Okay, so we began fiscal year 23 with a fund balance of $8.5 million. Recurring revenue for the first 3 quarters was $15 million. Expenditures totaled $13.6 million. The transfer from the 1-cent sales tax fund, prorated to 9 months, is $2.4 million. The transfer from the fiscally constrained fund, prorated to 9 months, is $1.2 million, all resulting in a savings to the fund balance of $5.1 million for the first 3 quarters, making the current fund balance $13.7 million as of June 30th. If revenues and expenditures continue at the same rate, you can expect the fund balance to be around $15.4 million by the end of this fiscal year. Keep in mind, the focus should be on revenues versus expenditures. This is what shows if you are dipping into your fund balance or not. The two transfers listed in the table are fund balances that are being moved to the general fund. This is a one-time event and will not apply to future fiscal years. Do you have any questions about general fund's third quarter update? Okay, next is the fire rescue fund. We began fiscal year '23 with a fund balance of $1.2 million. Recurring revenue for the first 3 quarters, including budgeted transfers from the general fund, was $4.6 million. Expenditures totaled $5.1 million, resulting in a use of their department's fund balance of $443,000 for the first 3 quarters, making the fire rescue's fund balance $776,000 as of June 30th. If revenues and expenditures continue at the same rate, you can expect the fire rescue's fund balance to be around $629,000 by the end of this fiscal year. Any questions about fire rescue? Okay. And finally, we have the road department fund. We began fiscal year '23 with a fund balance of $1.9 million. Recurring revenue for the first 3 quarters, including budgeted transfers from the general fund, was $1.7 million. Expenditures totaled $2.1 million, resulting in a use of their department's fund balance of $338,000 for the first 3 quarters, making the road department's fund balance $1.6 million as of June 30th. If revenues and expenditures continue at the same rate, you can expect the road department's fund balance to be around $1.5 million by the end of this fiscal year. Any questions on the road department? Okay. Okay, so this evening you will also need to set the proposed millage rate. Do you guys have? This should have been in your packet. If you don't have a copy, I can bring one to you.
Can you bring it? I don't see it. Put it back in.
Was that, did you email that? Was that an email that you sent?
It may have been.
I got it.
Thank you.
Okay, so in order to meet the trim notice deadline of August 4th, the board will need to set the proposed millage rate tonight. Before you is a spreadsheet outlining your options in setting the fiscal year 23-24 millage rate. Your current rate is 10 mills. If you keep the rate at 10 mills for fiscal year 23-24, you may expect to generate $12,911,021. This is an increase of $1.2 million from fiscal year 22-23. The rolled back rate is 9.7626, which would generate $12,604,513. This is an increase of $905,000 from fiscal year 22-23. A decreased rate of 9.5 mils would generate $12,265,470. This is an increase of $566,000 from fiscal year 22-23. Next is a decreased rate of 9.1104. This would generate $11,765,456. This is an increase of $63,918 from fiscal year 22-23. Next is a decreased rate of 9.0 mils, which would generate $11,619,919. This would be a decrease of $78,619 from fiscal year 22-23. As you discuss your options tonight, please remember that whatever you set your proposed millage rate at tonight, the property appraiser will use that rate on the trim notices that are scheduled to be mailed out to all taxpayers on August 15th. On September 5th, the board will hold its first public hearing where you will adopt a tentative millage rate. Please remember, if you should adopt a tentative millage rate that exceeds the proposed millage rate you set tonight, it would require new trim notices being mailed out to all taxpayers. So in short, it is advisable that you do not increase the tentative millage rate to be set in September from the proposed millage rate you set tonight. So before we conclude, I ask that the board please set the proposed millage rate tonight.
It sounds like we need to keep our millage the same as we had last year. We can always bring it down, but we need to keep it.
That is
Wanna
true.
make a motion?
I mean, whatever you set the proposed millage at, you can always come down, but this is the highest it'll go so that it's on the trim notice.
All right,
Was that a motion? Or-
wanna make a motion?
Yes, offer to make a motion to keep our millage the same at 10.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to just say that, I mean, we're still in a position to where, unfortunately, we can't roll back the millage rate. We could, but, you know, without any other revenue sources coming into the county, it's just gonna put us, you know, further in a hole. And, you know, until we decide as a board, whether it's franchise fees, whether it's impact fees, whether it's fire assessments, increase in the solid waste, whatever it is, until we have those other revenue sources coming in, then, you know, we're pretty much stuck where we are. So, that's all I have.
Mr. Rick, do you have anything?
I agree.
Well, and I feel the same way. This is a burden. I hate doing this, but with the franchise fee, not being approved and the amounts that we have to cover right now, there's just no way that we can do it. So, we had a motion, you got a second? So we'll take it to a vote. Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Boomer?
Aye.
And Andrews, aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana.
All right. And that takes us to Sheriff.
Real brief, we got grandsons I got to pick up from Vacation Bible School. Basically come for you tonight, I give both y'all the letters that came from our jail inspection. Got another fine inspection from the jail over there. In my term as sheriff, 15 years, we've always had a good one. So that goes to Major McKinley and her staff. They do a phenomenal job. So speaks loudly there. It comes from somebody that's very experienced in corrections, and the Florida Sheriff's Association Risk Management has it's more detailed than most correctional facilities throughout the United States that they have to follow to get those, and we're working on accreditation there as well. So it's a fine thing. And then the city of Lake Butler, kudos to them. They sent a letter thanking us for the response. But that couldn't be without the support of y'all that was able to help that issue in Union County. So I just gave you copies of that are there. A couple things I need to mention tonight, just for thought, coming up. Code enforcement, we've got a few properties that we're going to make decisions on, and I think place the trust in your county attorney and county manager to make some of these decisions as we move forward with the code enforcement and the magistrate. I can give you an example. We just did a drug arrest. The modular home in downtown of one of our municipalities was placed there without a permit. It was placed on property that the subject has been a decedent for more than 15 years. They were stealing electricity from one resident, stealing over 80,000 gallons of water that we can account for from another resident. This has been an ongoing problem. They never pulled a permit. Well, we were going to apply. Well, you can't put it there, then apply afterwards. I worked with Mr. Andrews and them, and I said, yeah, it becomes an issue. So to get that problem resolved, we got a deceased person. It's never gone through probate. Both of the subject that may have any claim to it. We got a warrant for one of the family members for trying to sell the property of the deceased, while one of the individuals were in prison who just got out. It gets very complicated. And then we've got another property that we're dealing with, similar, that the people are fighting over. Individual been living in the residence of a decedent, and now the family members are all fighting who's going to move there next. We've got issues, and I just want to give thought to give maybe your county manager and attorney so we can move things along swiftly, because once the fines go in place and those fines and fees reach the value of that property, then we need to decide, do we put a lien on it? Is that going to resolve our problem? Like we've got
maybe 3 situations now where the individuals say, we're just not gonna clean up, we're not gonna do it. Okay, we place a lien on it, it doesn't resolve the problem. And when they become rightfully refusal, I think that's something working. I didn't wanna ruin his vacation. I didn't even know if they had landlines in Iceland, man. So I didn't, but it's just something that's came at hand here recently as this thing's moving fast. We've gotten great response. We have cleaned up a lot of places in our communities, and we've done it for the municipalities as well. So I just wanted to give food for thought that maybe you all can work with your county manager and attorney and say, hey, these are decisions you make. Kind of gives you that way if somebody wants to appeal, you give that independent appeal to the Board of County Commissioners. If we move forward and say we're taking it, they can at least appeal to somebody and you'd be independent of that. Kind of leave you out of that loop, I think would give some, and give Lattice, we bring all the facts. I gotta admit, Deputy Ward, Corporal Ward has done a phenomenal job and he documents everything and he works closely with them. So is that something, food for thought? The other one, been doing this a long time, and here at least 4 or 5 times in the last couple of weeks, and I don't know if they've seen it on some national news story or something with the heat waves that are going across, cooling stations. I've mentioned it briefly with Director Brad Witt in reference to emergency management. You know, we have some public places, maybe the senior center, some other places. There are people that have called in that have no air conditioning. People that are on oxygen or what you call special needs. And it may be for those hot hours of the day. So it's something to look at. And I got it eating breakfast one morning. I caught it eating lunch one day, and we've had a couple phone calls. Sheriff, what about, I got my, this my neighbor here. He's got no air conditioner, living in this 100-degree house. And I know emergency medical services had to respond. They're wearing y'all out right now. And with this, I've never experienced it, but I did Google it. Actually, I YouTubed it. That's #1 search bar anymore is YouTube. And there are all the states basically, I guess they've seen on some national news, tell their seniors or people with special needs that they can report during these times of the day. They've got Wi-Fi, they've got electrical plug-ins, something we may look at because I know in the next few weeks we're going to have waves under heat advisory once this week at least, I know, if not twice already. And I've never experienced it. Nobody's ever called in for that, so it's new to me. I just wanted something y'all to food for thought in regards to it, and working with our county manager for something we might can set up or help serve. If we can help do something through emergency management, may not be reimbursement, but they're already air-conditioned buildings. And if it's something we can use our IT people with, I'm sure the clerk and us would work to make sure people have internet access where they're there. If I got to go buy a TV myself and donate it to them, there's source for them to hook up and watch. It gives them something to do. And I don't know about the other communities, and maybe they'll join in and say, hey, we got our city hall meeting. You can come during the day and watch whatever and sit where it's cool. Have some, light refreshments. I'm sure some of the businesses would help out. Just food for thought.
Yes, Sheriff.
Is there places where the other counties take them or send them?
It's new to me.
Where they
I've
can
not
find-
done that research. I have not.
Madam Chair, while we were in Orlando, they had a cooling station established. Many are using their libraries. Many are using their senior centers, and places where they're air conditioned, that you have activities a certain time of the day, so that people can go. A lady that I know, she and her son went to our library because
That's
they
being
didn't
used
have,
every day,
they
y'all.
were
People don't
waiting
know. That's what they're going there for.
waiting for power. They didn't have any air.
That's
So they went during the day and.
maybe it's some convenience we can operate with very little expense. I think, like we already got there, and if the city of Lawdy or city of Brooker has their things, they're already being paid to be AC'd anyway. If there's a little bit we can give to help assist, whatever we can do, what little bit we help, I think it's great. I have just never encountered it, and all of a sudden 4 or 5 times here in the last couple of weeks, people have approached me. I didn't have an answer, but I thought it was something that needed to be discussed amongst y'all that maybe we can offer. We don't mind helping, assisting, leading. I'm looking for y'all's guidance and something, that's something that we want to do maybe along those lines. I'm just asking for y'all's help.
Yes, sir. And one other thing that Duval has done for the senior elders
Right.
who have health issues, major health issues, they've been donating some window units for those critical situations.
Oh, absolutely, but then their power bills, it leads to the whole thing. But I think if we just at least offered it, we may get one person. We may wind up with 20 people. We don't know, we've never done it. It may be something we want to explore, and it's got to be pretty fast-paced, and I think it's a simple thing we could offer. If we had to go buy some chairs, or I don't know what it would take, but we can do some more research. If that's the wishes of the board, I'll get the Director Brad Witt to look in that area. Him and I have discussed it. It came to me offhanded, and I didn't really know where to go with it, but I came tonight. That's the reason I apologize for my dress. in regards, but I think it was something that needed to move rather quickly, and I needed the guidance of what the wishes of my board are.
I think if he has the time, that would be great. Be very, very beneficial to us if you could. And, see where we can find, and then we'll reach out to the public and let them know.
Because I know we deal with the fire EMS calls, and I'm telling you, they're getting a lot of those people that are just, it's miserable what y'all, some of them places, and the people you're dealing with, they don't have the funds, or their home's not set up, they live in some older homes. We got people living, you know, unfortunately in places we wouldn't want to live in, and it's critical. And if it's just, this week we got 3 heat advisories coming out, or whatever will be opened up between, 8 and 5, and light refreshments, bottles of water are cheap. We get them by the pallet.
Right.
And we got a warehouse that's still got, I guess we still do. I don't want to, I might throw that me speaking out of tune. That's your inventory. I try to stay out of the way, but,
Well, and each one of us in our district, we can kind of.
we'll reach out to the mayor of each municipality, and maybe it's something that the Brooker City, they may, it's there, and if they can open it for a few hours a day and let people come in and have some Wi-Fi or TV, I don't mind going and buying one and donating one. The price of them are getting really inexpensive, and hooked up to something they can watch some on a show or 2 shows going or something, just to give them some relief. And if kids got schoolwork, school's gonna be cranking back up, go there with their Wi-Fi. Everybody's got a phone, whether it be a government phone or whatever it is, at least Wi-Fi, if they don't have minutes, can get on there and search and pay their bill, whatever it may be they do. Watch the soap opera or whatever it is. In regards to, I think it would be some way of give them, and then people with plug-ins, we can add some heavy-duty plug-ins, work with Jason, where they can plug in there if they got an oxygen machine or whatever it is.
Okay.
That's just food for thought. And the next one is, y'all know Laudy's probably gonna be the first in the state of Florida for school zone traffic enforcement. My number one complaint, I can tell you, when school kicks off, is gonna be speeding in the school zone. The governor passed in legislation that radars can be used only in school zones during school hours, a couple hours a day. I think it's about 2.5, 3 hours on average. I know they're gonna be at the Florida Sheriff's Conference this weekend, and we've already gotten plenty of notices. It's one of the leading companies. They come with their own engineers. It doesn't cost anything. It's a $100 fine. If you pay it, it doesn't go against your driver's license. $5 goes for school crossing guard programs, and whatever the jurisdiction is, $60, which 21 of that goes to that company. But about $39 goes to be used for public safety. The rest goes to the school system to be used for education in schools out of that $100 citation. I just think that may be something we're looking at. And by God, if we can't stop the 140-plus accidents we've had on the bypass since this happened, and majority of them are at red lights, and I've never been a fan of red light cameras. I despise going through Green Cove a lot of times. I've been a victim of that. I've been a culprit of that, and I paid my fine. This public I have now said, yeah, I'm guilty. I did it, I paid it. I'm no different than anybody else. But the bypass is wearing us out with accidents. There's hardly a day with over 140 since it's open. We've got to do something. Now, I can tell you, it's they don't get a little bit of speed, they're speeding.
Yeah.
And the problem is, and we're working with DOT, and they say, yeah, something's in the plan. I spoke with Jason, well, yeah, they're talking about 2024, but then it doesn't start till 20. How many more people we got to kill? We need a school zone at 100, our most deadly intersection. You know, and me to get a letter and say there's not enough skid marks? Well, if I'd have known that was going to be the case, we'd have made some skid marks. But what about risk management? We got plenty of attorneys if we do something wrong. But what about risk management and prevent it before it comes? So those are some of the ideas that you're going to see me coming with in the near future. Our kids are worth it. Cars will slow down with a deputy patrol car sitting there, but the minute that deputy leaves, or he's got to speed through the school zone to catch a speeder, look, our kids are worth it. So those are some of the ideas that I'm looking for in the future that may have some of the fun. It's not much, but apparently they say it generates quite a bit. It will shock you with the number, and we all drive through them. And I'm sure I've been guilty a time or two myself. If I get it, I got to pay it. I need to pay attention. So that's what's coming. I want to thank y'all as always, but I'll give you that tidbit of information and some food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff.
All right. The county manager.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We amended the agenda earlier to address an emergency item, so Chief Carter, if you'll come up and present that.
Madam Chair, Board, how are y'all this evening?
Good, how are you?
Good.
My request tonight is for approval to apply for the Florida Firefighter Cancer Decontamination Grant. This is a 75-25 grant. I'm normally on my game, but this one slipped through the cracks, quite honestly, and this was just one that we're needing some new gloves and protective hoods. They've, come out with new products and new technology that does increase the cancer blocking agents in those materials, and so the overall ask is $6,160 was the quote that we received to outfit our department. The 25% match of that is $1,540. Currently in my budget, I have $75,000 budgeted for grant match that I've spent no money out of so far this year. And so my ask tonight would be for approval to apply for that with the $1,540 match.
Madam Chairman, we would need two separate motions and two separate votes. The first motion would be to declare the emergency and then vote on that, and then a motion to approve the request
Okay.
and a vote on that.
All right. So we have a motion to approve this as an emergency item?
No, ma'am,
Oh, I have
the first motion would be a motion to declare the emergency.
Okay. Do we have a motion to declare the emergency?
Yes, I make a motion to declare this an emergency.
And a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? And then we'll just vote on that. Okay? So Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daugherty?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Spooner?
Aye.
And Andrews, aye. All right, and then the second one is to approve the match. All right, do we have a motion to approve the grant match?
Make a motion to approve the grant match.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All right, Mr. Riddick?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Spooner?
Aye.
And Andrews, aye. Passes 5-0.
Excellent, thank you very much. The second thing I'd like to do is recognize Commissioner Chris Doherty and congratulate him for being elected to the secretary position at the Florida Small Counties Coalition.
Thanks.
So congratulations, sir.
Thank
And the third thing, Madam Chair, is Chief Carter would like to recognize or make a special recognition for his team.
Thank you again. So a few meetings ago, I brought my grant writing team in, and I'm lucky enough to have them in here again tonight with some more great news for this community. You guys, will you go ahead and stand for me? So we have Brian Dean, Brianna Yost, and Matthew Kimball, and then also not here with us tonight is Amanda Reeder, who all worked on this grant. Thank you. You can have a seat. The grant that they applied for was for the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation grant. So when you go to Firehouse Subs and you round up, that's what you're donating to. This grant amount was for $33,855, and that was for Hearst hydraulic rams. And so what that is basically, you've heard of the Jaws of Life. This is part of that system, basically. That's one of those tools that we use for vehicle extrication. These new tools are completely submersible in freshwater or saltwater, up to 6 feet. You can operate them underwater, and they're fully battery powered. They're battery operated instead of where we used to have hydraulic pumps and generators that we had to use to run these tools. The technology has come a long way. We currently do not have these tools on any of our apparatus in the county, so this will greatly improve our ability to do vehicle extrication in the county. But I would just like to read, I'm going to be placing letters of commendation in all of their personnel files, and I would just like to read that letter to these employees here. I would like to express my sincere congratulations for your outstanding achievement as a member of our grant writing committee. Your efforts have resulted in the successful acquisition of the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation grant, totaling $33,855 for the procurement of 3 Hearst hydraulic rams and accessories. Your dedication, expertise, and meticulous attention to detail played a pivotal role in securing this grant. By effectively conveying the pressing need for these Hearst extrication tools and highlighting the potential positive impact on patient outcomes, you have yet again demonstrated your unwavering commitment to improving our department's capabilities and ensuring the highest standard of care for our community.
This grant award will significantly enhance the efficiency and safety of our emergency medical response. Your exceptional skills as a new grant writer, combined with your collaboration with the committee and stakeholders, have set an admirable example for your colleagues and contributed to our overall success. On behalf of the entire department, I extend my sincere gratitude for your hard work and determination. Your accomplishments reflect positively on our organization and will undoubtedly leave a lasting impact on our community. Please accept this letter of commendation as a token of my appreciation for your exceptional performance and dedication to our mission. Congratulations once again on this remarkable achievement. I look forward to witnessing your continued contributions and success within our department. And if you would stand again, I just want to give them a round of applause.
Good job.
And Board, I would just like to point out, that's, since January, that's $98,563, with no associated match for either of these grants that this team has, secured for the county.
Good job.
Great
Thanks.
job. Thank
Great
you
job.
so much.
Can you get us a firehouse subs too?
I will say, we have to put a store on the grant, so we have to team up with a store in order to do this grant. Obviously, we don't have one in town, so we use the Middleburg Firehouse subs, but if you're over in that area, stop in and just tell them thank you.
Good, thank you.
And we'll be doing, once we get the tools, we'll do a big PR event over at the store. And of course, all of you will be invited to that, so, thank you.
All right, Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So the fourth and final item under my report is, I'm proud to announce that on Tuesday, we received a $2.3 million deposit into our account from the state of Florida DEO Job Growth Grant. So that airport access road project is complete, totally complete now, and we have been fully reimbursed. So once again, I know we've thanked everybody a half dozen times, but one more time won't hurt. So thank you, Jason. Thank you, Amanda, Heather, everyone that was involved in this project. It's something to be proud of. So thank you to everybody.
Yep,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Commando? No? All right, commissioners' comments?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I know he didn't intentionally do it, but, our manager, I would like to, congratulate Ms. Andrews, who completed the level 1 advanced, commissioner training, received a graduation and plaque in Orlando in June. And I'm grateful to this board, for, allowing us to go to these training, and I received my level 2 training and certification at that same event. They did a nice, graduation and presented us with our plaques. Also, I just want to remind you that coming up in Hampton on the 29th, there's going to be, at the Bobby Park, there's going to be a food giveaway, and to encourage the people to take advantage of that. Also, the school will have a giveaway at the bus drive for the children with the back to school, and that's on the 29th from 9 till noon. There will be, just want to also remind you about the hub services at the Bethel Church every Tuesday, Thursday from 10 till 2. Also remind the community that the career resource is open for business Monday through Friday. They will help people with their job searches. This is important. The sheriff did bring up the issue about the heat. I'm concerned about the heat as well, and particularly for those people who don't have AC in their homes. And we do have homeless people in our community, believe it or not. And in some areas, the surface of the roads or sidewalks can be excruciatingly hot and can injure those persons. As the sheriff indicated, let's look at what we can do about that. And I know places like your library, sometimes the senior centers, and places that have considered public, where you can maybe go and sit and just cool down, and to have some watering stations. I wanted to ask too, when we might get our audit report from our annual audit report. I know it's around July or so, and I didn't know if we had a time frame in which we could expect to receive that.
Yes, ma'am. We internally are supposed to be meeting with the auditors next week, Wednesday, And we should have a better time frame on when they're scheduled to present. We're hoping August 1st that they will be. And speaking of that, if I may, Ms. La Follette is scheduled to present an unbalanced budget on August 1st, similar to how she presented last year. So what you can expect is she'll have the PowerPoint screen of the all of the funds and the budget that has been submitted to her, and then she'll show you what your options are to balance it. So you won't have budget books at that meeting, because at that meeting it's going to be presenting an unbalanced budget, seeking direction from the board on how to balance. Really, your only options will be any fund balance that the department heads have, and then your general fund transfer. And then from there, once it's balanced, then we'll present the budget books at our budget meetings. Thank you.
And I know Mr. Dodds is still here, but with so much rain that we've had, the growth occurs really rapidly. So I don't know if they could increase the mowing along the roadsides in the community. And I know you're doing the best you can. You can't mow when it's wet, but because of the growth is so rapid that with the kind of weather we've been having, to be able to increase mowing.
Yes, ma'am. We haven't stopped other than when the rain's gotten so bad that we pull them out, so we're not tearing the ditches up worse than they already are. And as soon as we get back to a condition, or we'll relocate to another part of the county that hasn't seen that much rain.
Yeah.
So we continue to move as fast as we can with 2 tractors covering 300 and something miles, and that's just 1 lane mile. So you got to consider it's 4 laps depending on right of way.
Right.
But we continue to move as fast as we can, and
Yes,
as
sir.
safely as we can.
Yes, sir. And then one other thing, because of the amount of rain, it's increased the mosquito production. So as often as they can spray, I know there are certain times or areas, but as often as they can spray.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I know a lot of y'all get phone calls from your citizens. Encourage them to please call the ag department, because that's how the state documents our funding
Okay.
and the amount of funding we get, and that's how we track it, is through the ag department. So versus calling myself or Mr. Jackson, please encourage them to call the ag extension.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Okay. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Belder?
No, I don't have anything, thank you.
I'm good, thanks.
Well, I just would like to say thank you for everyone being here. It's been a long meeting, and we really appreciate your attendance. So with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. God bless.